Good morning. This is Anna Crowe with the Get Real podcast, where CEOs, CMOs, and communications experts and leaders share their real advice. It's 5 questions under 9 minutes because we get to it real fast. So let's get to it. I am thrilled to have today's guest on. In a few sentences, could you please tell us who you are and what you do?
Sure. Hi, Anna. First of all, thank you for having me on today. I appreciate the opportunity. My name is Dickerson, and I am a nonprofit trade association executive with 20 plus years of experience. And in my current role, I'm the vice president of conferences and events for the Consumer Technology Association, which is North America's largest technology trade group. We represent the entire technology spectrum. And as part of that, we produce CES, which is really the world's largest, most influential tech event.
I have to tell you, Kara, that is one of my favorite shows. I've been going to it for, excluding last year, for about 8 years, and always look forward to it. My team always looks forward to it. Our clients always look forward to it. So kudos to you and the team for putting on such an incredible event that has grown in notoriety and just breadth over the years.
That's great. I'm so glad to hear that you've come to CES. I always love to talk to people who have that experience.
Absolutely. Well, Kara, our podcast is all about authentic connections. And I hear from other successful executives that creating authentic connections, whether it's customers, employees, other leaders, can be challenging when there's a lot of noise out there. What's your take on that?
You know, I certainly agree there's a lot of noise out there, but I don't think creating authentic connections is really that difficult. And I think one of the things that's really important for people to focus on is to start a relationship by talking less and listening more. And I think whatever you do, whether you're working in a member-driven association like I am at this point, or you're in a company that's looking to sell products and services or provide, some other type of opportunity, it's always important to listen and understand the people that you want to work with. And I think that this works really, really well in a business environment. It works in our personal lives. It works with our employees. It works with our executive team and those that we're working for. And, in a year like the one we've all just lived through, which has just been so surreal, it has been so important for us to understand what the people we're working with are going through, what's happening to their businesses, what's happening to the industries that they're part of, what are they hoping to achieve, what are they afraid of? And, once you understand that information, I think you can really create a much deeper, stronger connection and align your services and the way you want to work together to help meet those needs, to meet the customer where they are. So, I think in terms of authenticity, talking a little bit less and listening more has really been something that served me well during my career.
I love that advice, and I love that you pair this active listening with the understanding and then also an actionable, right? Creating a plan that fits that demand or fits that need, so you're actually adding value. So
Exactly.
I think that's fantastic advice. Do you have any other real advice for other leaders? Is there anything else that you think is really important?
I do. I think there's a couple things that have served me well, and I've really appreciated in my relationships with other leaders, whether it's a direct supervisor or peers in industry. I think the first thing is to just be honest, and transparent. It is okay to say, I don't know the answer to that. I need to get more information. Again, I don't want to bring everything back to this very surreal 2020 and 2021 we've lived through, but I think all of us have been in situations probably on a daily, if not hourly basis over the past year where we've had to react, be flexible, be creative, and excuse me, also just be very honest that we don't know everything and we have to take in information, we have to absorb what's going on, we have to pivot, and we have to come back stronger from what we've learned. So, I think even especially in working with teams, and your employees and your staff that look up to you as when times are uncertain and they don't know what to expect. When you can be transparent with people and share the information, even if it's not a fully formed decision, you can bring them into that process with you. You can empower them to help create that decision with you, to feel like they're invested in what you're trying to do and what you're looking to accomplish. And I think this is a lesson that I'm hoping that all of us are taking from what we've just lived through, that we can be transparent. We don't always have to know the answers. And in some ways, by being a little more vulnerable in that sense, I think that we can create stronger teams and stronger organizations, because it forces us back to what I said before. We have to listen, we have to learn, and we have to then recreate ourselves, kind of in observance of what we've just heard. So I think being honest is really important. I would also say, don't be afraid to be relatable. You can probably see my photos behind me. I'm a mom. I've got 2 kids. I've got 2 teenagers, and lives are very busy. We're kind of running around after sports and everything else. So things have certainly slowed down a bit this year, given what's been going on. And, I'm very honest with my team. If I'm taking off half a day to go on a field trip with my daughter's elementary school, or to take my son to a doctor's appointment or whatever it is, this is part of life. This is, I'm a human being. I'm not just an executive in the team. And I think by sharing that information and kind of talking through even the own challenges I have in balancing my professional life and my personal life, it makes me more relatable to the people who work with me and work for me. And we all have stronger relationships because of that, because I think that the balance between those 2 things is really important. And if you're not sharing that information, you can't build a relationship based on that. So be honest, be relatable, be human. And I think we're all better off for it.
Absolutely. So much gold there. You've brought up some really amazing points. And you mentioned earlier that human aspect. I mean, that's where we all connect, right? That's where trust comes from. We build relationships through the fact that we're all human and on some level very similar. So I love that you painted that picture so beautifully. So thank you for sharing your awesome advice.
Oh, you're welcome.
Well, before we get to our final question, which is more of a fun one, are there any other successful leaders such as yourself that you would like to acknowledge while we have you on this podcast?
I would probably do a collective acknowledgement. I think this has been a very interesting year to observe the way that executives and leaders across every industry, this is not just in mine or even Fortune 500 companies, have been, I think, leading with flexibility and compassion. There's so much that we are all experiencing together. We have a very common experience, I think, even more so than perhaps any other time. And leaning into that and, really taking advantage of this common thread, these common threads that all of us are grappling with. The entire world has been upended. Our businesses are changing. It's providing a lot of actually really creative opportunity. I think if we embrace this change, we're going to come out of this in a very different way, and perhaps even stronger than the way we entered into this. And so I think there's been a tremendous amount of wonderful examples of compassion and flexibility that I have seen leaders across organizations exhibiting, particularly when they are engaging their employees and understanding where their employees are coming from. Many who are coming from a place of a lot of personal pain and concern and fear, kind of going through what we've been doing, especially in North America and in the US, given the past year. So it's been inspiring. And I expect to see a lot of changes in the way that leaders are shifting their own personal style to not just relate to the moment, but hopefully have some of these lessons stick in the future.
Yeah, that's great. And you said something earlier about admitting when you don't know, when you don't have all the answers. And you're right. I think this past year, when you look back, even just a year ago, right, last end of April or May, we don't know what's going to happen. It's hard to forecast, right? So, and you can't tell someone, well, everything's going to be X, Y, Z, or these are the numbers we're going to attain, or this is what's going to happen. We just don't know, right?
No.
There's so many things in our external environment that have impacted us. And I love your talk track around just leaning into that and being able to communicate, being transparent, and really listening, so that people feel more secure and people feel like no matter what happens, they're in a great trusting environment. And I trust that my leaders are going to do the right thing, even though we may not have all the answers today, right?
Exactly.
Awesome. All right. Well, our last question, as I mentioned, is more of a fun one. You've had this incredible career, but we always like to ask our guests how they got started. So can you tell us about your first job?
So I have two answers for this question. My first job was when I was 14, and I started working at a Hallmark, and I became an expert at gift wrapping for people, which is a skill that I still am proud of today. So I carried that with me. But my first professional experience was actually working at a Washington, D.C. based public relations firm on public interest campaigns around issues like airbag safety and things like that. And I was pitching stories to reporters to get these stories embedded in news reports. So I started in PR and communications before moving on to nonprofit work.
Oh, very cool. I love it. All right. Well, how can people get a hold of you or learn more about the organization or anything else you're doing?
Sure. So to get a hold of me, I'm reachable on LinkedIn. You can find me there. And the Consumer Technology Association website is cta.tech, TECH. So very easy. And of course, I think many people are familiar with CES. So taking a look at what the show is doing from an innovation perspective, there is lots of great material out there.
Fantastic. Well, we so appreciate you joining us today. And thanks everyone for tuning in. This is Anna Crowe. For more insights, visit us at crowepr.com.